How about you?
Well, welcome to the, let's see, it's the 17th, to the 17th of March meeting of the Cumberland County Commissioners. Jim, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Cloutier.
Present.
Commissioner Caterina.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Tyler.
Here.
Commissioner Gordon.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. I'll ask all that would so care to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, thank you. I see we have another good attendance, and I appreciate that. We might as well just get right into the agenda. Approval of the minutes. Could I have a motion?
Got a workshop first.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Jim, you're on.
All right, thank you. This item is being brought forth by the Sheriff's Office. They have been working with the Opportunity Alliance to explore ways of creating a crisis response liaison within the Sheriff's Office. And so I won't go too much further, but pass the microphone off to Chief Deputy Pellerin for further explanation of their proposal. Chief?
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Tonight, just a short presentation on an opportunity we have with the Opportunity Alliance to create a partnership with crisis response liaisons, train mental health workers to embed and co-respond with our sheriff's deputies on road and patrol. And this is something, I've got Michelle Hansen here to my left. Michelle is director with the Opportunity Alliance, and she's here to answer some questions, probably more specifically in some areas than I can. But I wanted to use the PowerPoint more or less as a template guide outline of what's going on and what we hope to propose before you today in signing a memorandum of understanding between the Cumberland County Sheriff's Office and the Opportunity Alliance. The Cumberland County Sheriff's Department Law Enforcement Services patrols 15 of the 28 municipalities in Cumberland County. Here they're highlighted in different colors. The county is 303,000+ people as of the 2020 census, and our service population for the areas that we patrol in the county is about 55,000 residents. That's year-round residents, so that doesn't take into account summer, Sebago Lake, islands, things like that. County's rather large. It's 835 square land miles. And I listed there some of the communities that we patrol. Some are contract patrol areas and some are general revenue service areas. And we've divided the county up into 5 geographic districts, probably similar along the lines of the county commission districts, but they are color-coded. So red would be District 1, District 2 would be blue, District 3 would be that golden color, District 4 would be Harpswell and the islands. And what we consider District 5 for the Sheriff's Patrol are communities with established police departments. So municipal police departments, South Portland, Bridgeton, things like that. Primarily what we do this for is to statistical analysis, kind of track where our calls for service are, demands for needs and service, and things like that. We have 47 general revenue and contract uniformed deputies. That includes lieutenants, sergeants, and road deputies, but it doesn't include command staff officers or CID detectives. In addition to the communities that we provide services for, we also have a rather large school population that we provide law enforcement services for. We have school resource officers in the Bonnie Eagle School District, the Great New Gloucester School District, and the Lake Region School District. But in addition to that, there's also smaller community schools that we provide services for that are part of other districts that may be centrally located in other jurisdictions. And that would be Pownell, Harpswell, Harrison, Raymond, and Sebago. As you know, Raymond Elementary School would fall under the school district in Wyndham. Sebago does fall under Naples, Lakes Region, but it does stand alone as a school district. And Pownell falls under Freeport, and Harrison, as of now, is attached to the school district in Oxford County, Oxford Hills. Mental health related calls have continued to increase. The next few following slides really relate to 2023 and 2024 as our most recent and complete snapshots of mental health calls. In 2023, deputies responded to over 1,000 mental health calls related to service throughout the county, and listed some of those that relates to in our listings. I think I provided the statistical data to you in your commission packets with the specifics, but that includes overdoses, suicides, attempted suicides, citizens call for help, protective custody, things like that, mental health events. In the year 2023, the leader of the communities that we provided services for was the town of Gray, and there were 323 mental health calls in that community. And the number 2 community, Gray, I should say, is about 8,500 people roughly for residents, and the next one in line was the town of Standish with 147 mental health calls, and their population is near around 11,000 people. So it's a significantly larger community and a fairly good-sized community. Of note in 2023, one of the significant challenges that we faced, and I think the commission's been briefed, I know the county manager has been as well, is an incident that occurred in the town of Raymond in December of 2023, which is a rather significant mental health call that tied up resources of ours for about 5 days. Included an individual that was heavily armed, barricaded in his house, wouldn't communicate with us. This was shortly after the Lewiston incident, so there was a real concern about not reaching a conclusion with that type of case. It was very difficult on our staff. It was a very difficult case to handle. We were in contact with the governor's office. We were in contact with the attorney general's office. We really were at a loss because the weapons restriction order, or yellow flag law at the time, really was missing some key provisions that particular case was responsible for legislative change, where it added a protective custody warrant. And this individual we thought was rather dangerous, had some propensity to violence, things of that nature. Long story short, we were able to finally take that person into protective custody several days after that incident. And the family really struggled, and really everyone in the community really struggled to find a solution to that. Next slide. Some statistical data from 2023 from Wendy Tarbox, our crime analyst, breaks down the 1,099 calls. And as you can see from District 3, which is that Gray, New Gloucester, Raymond, Casco area, 472 calls in 2023, which is rather significant over the others. District 5, as I mentioned, was 47, but again, those are calls that we were helping other agencies with police departments that we responded to in addition to our own jurisdiction. In 2024, our calls for mental health, or coded as mental health calls, increased significantly to over 1,300 mental health calls. And that included a wide display of mental health calls previously noted in 2023, the same categories that I mentioned previous. Of note, 483 mental health calls, or almost a 50% increase, was in the town of Gray for mental health calls, which is very significant. Gray does have a contract with us. It's a small contract for the size comparably of the community. It's roughly 2.5 deputies. So it's 2 deputies, and then in the summertime, the deputy assigned to the Gray New Gloucester High School is contracted. That contract spills into the town, and they cover that community for the summer months during the increase. I should note that those 483 calls also weren't directly connected to these particular group homes, but there were 19 group homes that were listed within that call for service. So there's over 20 group homes in the town of Gray, but 19 of them involved us responding there for mental health emergencies. Again, Standish was number 2 in the county at 147, which is flatline. That's what it was the year previous to that. And there are 3 documented group homes for mental health related calls. There are more group homes in Standish, but those are the ones that were documented in the calls for being that we responded to. Of note, last year, we unfortunately were put in a situation where we had 2 fairly significant mental health related calls. One was in January in Naples. We had a subject who had been suffering from a mental health crisis, had been calling 911, was heavily intoxicated, called over a period of several days. And then one early morning after midnight, he called again, threatening to harm himself with a firearm and other people in the community. We responded, and when the deputies responded, he started shooting at them outside of his house, and ultimately a deputy did return fire and struck that individual. He did survive, and he is facing criminal charges. We had another incident in November of this year in the town of Harrison. Again, a very similar MO, a person kind of cycling into a spiral of mental health crises, had been dealing with the sudden death of a beloved pet, which was a trigger. Again, intoxicated, called dispatch several times, claiming that he was going to kill himself and harm himself. Deputies responded. We thought we knew the location that he was at, and come to find out he had broken into the house across the street. We sent the deputies who started shooting at the deputies. They immediately pivoted, surrounded the house, and to build a perimeter, where later during the event he came outside armed with 2 weapons and moved very aggressively to the perimeter, refused the orders to drop, and unfortunately deadly force was used. Again, the subject did live and was not killed in that incident, but he was shot, and he's currently housed at the Cumberland County Jail. Again, just a statistical analysis of the calls. District 3, again, which is that gray New Gloucester area, kind of the hub of activity, at 608 mental health calls, which is really significant. Districts 1 and 2 also active, and then District 4 are the islands. And the islands are relatively quiet about 8 months out of the year. That's Long, Chebeague, and Fry. And Fry's so quiet, there's nobody even on the island in the wintertime. So, not that Fry is included in that, I'm sorry, but Harpswell, Long, and Chebeague, so I take that back. Next slide. Just another graph to kind of put in reference the mental health calls. Clearly, the gray area is significantly higher than the other communities, again, with a lesser population than Standish, and of course towns like Naples, New Gloucester, Raymond, towns with some significant population also are there as well, but islands, Chebeague Island, Long Island are relatively low, just to kind of capture that size or volume of calls that we receive. Cumberland County Sheriff's Department, through the Maine Criminal Justice Academy and other healthcare providers, received crisis intervention training. We collaborate with local EMS. We have great relationships with the fire departments throughout the county. We work with area hospitals we know well. We work with Spurwink, which is an agency that is basically heading the weapons restriction order for the yellow flag, and we also work well with the courts. Unfortunately, these are really short-term instances to deal with long-term problems. And I was telling Alex earlier that, you know, the Cumberland County Sheriff's Department and law enforcement in general is really designed to show up and fix a problem as best it can at that time. And unfortunately, we're dealing with problems that are long-term problems, and we don't always have the best solutions for those problems. We have very little ability to provide a lot of follow-up services or make proper referrals and identify kind of mental health providers that are in the community that could help us. Every law enforcement agency in Cumberland County, to include the state police, which I did not note there, has some level of crisis liaison response available to them, whether full-time embedded as an employee or through a shared part-time program. I think Cumberland, Yarmouth, and Freeport share a mental health liaison. The town of Scarborough, for example, has their own staff full-time, things like that. So it really is kind of the industry standard, and we do not have access to this, to the ability that we should at this point, in my opinion. This brings in the Opportunity Alliance, and again, I'll introduce Michelle here in a minute, but the Opportunity Alliance is a nonprofit based here in Portland. They provide a lot of services as an agent of the state through the state. That includes the 211 Information Center, the 988 Suicide or Crisis Lifeline. They also operate a walk-in crisis center on Lancaster Street in Portland. And they also provide mobile crisis response services, which they do in the city of Portland, and also, I say Bridgeton, but it's Bridgeton, kind of northern Cumberland County, in that area. This is from their website, and I wanted to kind of use this as an illustration of kind of using 211, 988, and 911. So 211 is for information services that the general public may have, inquiring about medical resources or food, shelter, things of that nature. 988 is, again, the suicide hotline, and 911, of course, is the emergency hotline. The one thing that I wanted to kind of note on this graph is if you look at the overlays between the circles, there's the terms warm handoff, warm handoff, warm handoff. And I think it's important to note that that's kind of terminology that in the law enforcement field, we're hoping that this this relationship can kind of develop and nurture into, is where we can respond to an emergency, but we can have a warm handoff to an organization like Michelle operates and have that person get that follow-up attention and check-ins and resources given to them and things like that. The Opportunity Alliance has memorandums of understanding with Portland PD, as I mentioned. Portland PD has 2, but my understanding is they have 6 additional crisis response liaisons that they employ either through federal grants or through city employees. And then there's the one in northern Cumberland County. And these crisis response liaisons are embedded with those law enforcement agencies. So they work in their stations, ride in their patrol cars. The Portland model is a little bit different than the one that we're really interested in at this point. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But that's kind of going to be a growing determination between the 2 organizations working in a partnership. But they ride and respond to mental health calls. They receive referrals for follow-up on persons that they've encountered, maintain check-ins, and also in some cases they respond directly to low-level mental health calls in lieu of a police response. So I don't know that we're there yet. Certainly we have different dynamics here in the county, but I think that there can be circumstances where that probably would be appropriate. And I know in speaking to Melinda Dyer for Cumberland County Regional Communications, they have a process that they vet emergency and other calls through, and they help make that determination on whether that non-law enforcement person is appropriate to respond. And this is what happens when you put your photo on LinkedIn. I'll introduce Michelle. She's the Senior Director of Crisis Services for the Opportunity Alliance. She's got quite a credentialed history, and is making me feel really bad about being kind of lazy academically. So Michelle is here. She has got a pretty extensive background in her field, and once we get into some questions here, I'll turn it over to Michelle, and I think she can probably provide you with a little more detail and information. I provided a copy of the Memorandum of Understanding in its draft form to you all, and asked, I think it's been distributed in the county packet, like I said. That was originally sent to the Opportunity Alliance for them to review, and they signed it. They were, I think, satisfied with what we were asking for in that MOU. We've not signed it. We wanted to go through the process. We started meeting, I think, back in October of last year, and then as everything seems to happen, it gets kind of put on the back burner, and there's other crises that we're dealing with. But ultimately, this MOU is renewed annually. So it's a process that's discussed, and I don't want to say negotiated, but gone over at least every year. Each party has the ability to exit the MOU within 30 days written notice. The funding for it, this is the best part, is through Maine DHHS and also direct claim submissions to beneficiaries who receive services through private and public. So if someone's a Maine Care beneficiary, Michelle's staff has the ability to submit claims to Maine Care for services provided to that person, or if they're Blue Cross Blue Shield, or they're TRICARE through the military, whatever that might be, they have that. That's their funding source, essentially. There's no financial cost to Cumberland County. Now, I've had several conversations with Michelle, and she's assured me that there's no cost to Cumberland County, so if she stands up here and tells you something different, I will be shocked, but that's where we stand. One of the things that we asked for in the MOU, we used the Portland Police MOU as kind of a go-by draft, was we wanted a little bit of control on some vetting through our office, only because this person's going to have access to our law enforcement sensitive databases and police reports and things of that nature. And really the management and clinical oversight will be provided by Michelle's staff at the Opportunity Alliance, but kind of the field oversight will be done through the Cumberland County Sheriff's Office as a kind of an overseer of that program as it develops. The approach that we're taking is really kind of a crawl, walk, run approach. We're in baby steps at this point. It's being done a lot of different places, so I think the advantage to that is we can see what worked, what didn't work. Michelle's very experienced with working with other organizations, so we'll have an opportunity to kind of not make some of the mistakes that other people have made. This position, we envision it, in my discussions with the sheriff, is that this will be a co-response with reference to mental health related calls. The focus service area will be the 15 communities that we patrol, but realistically, probably the 2 target areas right out of the gate are going to be the town of Gray and the town of Standish. That's really where the volume of calls, and really about a population of about 20,000 people. There's more than 22 documented group homes in those 2 communities, And there's also 2 large school districts, Bonnie Eagle High School, MS-86, which is one of the larger school districts in the state, and also Gray New Gloucester School as well. The MOU at this point is for 1 crisis response liaison. I don't want to speak for Michelle when she speaks, but I could see it being more than that at some point. I just think that the volume of calls, the type of calls, gone are the days of a deputy responding to a 15-minute call for service, clearing, and getting back on the road. The mental health calls that we're responding to now are multiple in a day, and sometimes they're hours dealing with that situation or crisis at the time. So it really is tying up a lot more resources to really deal with the situation right then and there, but again, not really dealing with it for the long term. One of the things that I'm most excited about, this one person really won't be able to be everywhere at once, and they're certainly going to miss calls, but this will be a situation where the deputies can make referrals to that identified liaison for follow-up, planning, intervention, strategies, what works, what didn't work, that sort of thing. And the reality is Michelle's line of work, just like police work, they network. And I'm sure Michelle's staff knows who's working in Portland, and the Portland staff knows who's working in South Portland, and it's really kind of a collaborative effort. And this person will also have an opportunity to review calls that come in through our pass downs and through our Spillman database. Alex.
Sorry.
The goals really of the partnership are to develop a collaborative approach between law enforcement and the Opportunity Alliance, reduce law enforcement responses for mental health services. We're getting a lot of repeat individuals. Focus more on criminal and quality of life issues throughout our patrol area. Provide resources to individuals in need of mental health and other wraparound services, housing, SUD, medical type stuff. Reduce the number of arrests, reduce 911 calls, reduce hospitalizations, reduce jail intake bookings, and really a reduction in the use of force. I think Kyle Manahan over at the jail, and I think many of the people here, as a matter of fact, would probably attest to some of the strategies that he's used to reduce use of force on inmates, and they've been very, very successful. And a lot of it has been behavioral health and mental health within the jail, and I'm hoping that we get the same results here out in the field. And most importantly, provide information and resources to family members who are dealing with other family members involving mental health crises and things like that. And unfortunately, that's a very underserved population as well. Next. And I think this ends it here for me, but the partnership really is to understand that this is a first step in the process. It's a proven approach. It's really the industry standard nationwide at this point. We have high expectations for this to be successful and work collaboratively. And really our investment at this point is our time and attention, but we would provide working space at the LEC, the area substations that we have throughout the county, in Naples, and Gloucester, and Standish, and Harpswell, and things like that. And really just have that oversight from our perspective of where we'd like to direct that person to help us out. So, Michelle, I don't know if you'd like to add anything to the presentation here, or?
I think what I would say is, the crisis system in Maine is, we have a pretty robust crisis system in Maine. Unfortunately, not everybody's aware of it. So like I go out into the world, I go to my gym, I talk to somebody I meet on the street, and I talk to them about crisis services, and nobody even knows what they are. But we have we have the main crisis line, which you call by dialing the statewide crisis line number, or 988 now. And we take 150,000 calls a year. And so the way it works is that each district, each DHS district in the state of Maine has a contracted mobile crisis provider. So we have, at the Opportunity Alliance, we have the contract for Cumberland County. And so it's already our job, to address crises in this area. And I think, one of the disconnects is that people, when they need help, they think law enforcement. They don't think mobile crisis. They don't know how to get a hold of us. And so we're seeing lots of people. But there's a lot more people who have mental health needs who are just kind of going through a different channel instead of talking to us. So it's kind of like a symbiotic partnership where the people in crisis are, able to get into contact with us through the sheriffs. The sheriffs can help, clear the scene and make sure things are safe and everything's appropriate in that way. But then we can, have an appropriate and compassionate response to somebody, take our time helping to connect them with the right resources. We can follow up over time to make sure they're not kind of left hanging and having to call in an emergency all the time. Relationship development and kind of proactive interventions to help keep people stabilized if they don't have enough resources or if they're struggling. So we're excited about this and what am I supposed to call?
Just call me Brian.
It's Brian. Said we are a healthcare service, so we bill private insurance and we bill main care, and we also hold the contract for this area, so there is grant funding assigned so that nobody has to pay for the service. If they don't have insurance, then they're not paying for it, or it will be paid for. And we do have experience doing this for over a decade at the Portland Police Department and then in Bridgeton as well. And we, I know the Portland Police Department has a lot of data, but it just saves their officers so much time so that they can, fight crime and the mental health workers can help people with mental health problems.
I should note that I found out about this program. I've gotten a job announcement as we normally work through different job announcements and things like that for this position in Bridgeton. I thought, how do they have that position? And then I had a conversation I had with Melinda, said that I needed to talk to Michelle. So here we are. So happy to answer any questions. I can happily answer on the sheriff's behalf, the department, but Michelle is really the content expert when it comes to the operation.
Jim, go ahead.
Assuming you fight your way through our bureaucratic gathering here, what's your start date?
Well, on the memo that I sent, it was hopefully March 1st, but we'll probably push that back with the approval date. So, or as soon as this is approved, then they can get somebody onboarded. I think there's a lot of people getting into that field of counseling, social work, things like that. And this is certainly a lower level position than a licensed clinical social worker, but someone who's in that field and has that interest.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. I just came off from 10 years with the Scarborough Town Council and helped work on starting the program in Scarborough with Scarborough Police Department. And I have seen firsthand how beneficial it is to have people with social work backgrounds. So I think this is a great idea, and I thoroughly support it, so.
Yeah. I've got two questions, one for Michelle and then one for Brian. And I will just echo, I'm in support of this. I think the interagency support and collaboration is really important these days. And I think also experts staying in their expert field, doing what they do best is also a really efficient, great model for the end client or in general, is to really put those resources to good use. So I think it's a wonderful marriage of what we have to offer folks. The question I have for Michelle is more around, you have over 10 years experience in all this, and Brian mentioned earlier, having all that experience, you've seen some of the pitfalls and some of the best practices. What would be the pitfalls you've seen over the past 10 years that we're hopefully going to avoid?
I think the biggest one, we haven't had, you would expect there to be like issues with safety or like things like that. We haven't had that. We haven't had a lot of like culture clash things. I think it needs to be, we have to pick the right individual to be doing it because it does take, relationship building with you all and then with the client, and it needs to be somebody who takes initiative so they, aren't kind of constantly waiting for direction.
Okay, and I guess I have two questions for you, Michelle, sorry, I thought it was one of two. But it came to my head is that, mentioned, the funding and, main care and all those sorts of things. You have state funding, is that correct? And do you also get federal funding?
Well, indirectly, some of the funds from the Office of Behavioral Health, I think, come from SAMHSA, so.
Okay, all right, great. Thank you for that. And then, Brian, just one quick question. I love the call data. That's really interesting to see. And I mean, I like data in general, but it's amazing to see, the big numbers in suicide calls and domestic violence or abuse or things of that nature. And clearly, those numbers say there's a need. There's no doubt about that. I'm just always interested, like you mentioned, it's the long-term approach that you guys are short-term, get it done and protect people, which I think is fabulous. But the long term, I just have to say, I think it's important for us to at least make mention or think about why public health is so important in all of the proactive programs that they have, because they're working on interventions. They're working on getting into grade schools to help kids understand what's happening in the world and support them. So I know I'm going off track here, but we can certainly put effort where it needs to be, but hopefully, we also see the real need of having programs in place to maybe make these numbers go down, versus just responding to these numbers all the time. It's like a vicious cycle. So I just had to say it out loud.
No, I think the world's not getting easier.
Yeah,
For sure.
right.
And,
Yeah.
Really, the best approach is a collaboration, because it really is a team effort. I mean,
Yeah.
we have certain tools available to us in law enforcement.
Yeah,
But when you're a hammer and you start to see everything like a nail,
yeah,
it's not a nail. There's other ways
Yeah.
to approach and find solutions, because I think we can mitigate a lot of these numbers. Certainly, group homes have been an issue in the areas that we cover, and primarily because in a lot of cases, and I'm speaking in general terms, the staff employed there under-equipped, underqualified in some cases, and the people in the group homes probably beyond the scope of what a group home really could do. But we're constantly dealing with this struggle of where do people go?
yeah, there's some
Short of being on the street.
yeah, there's systemic issues going on out there, for sure. Thank you. Thank you both for your time, and good luck. Thank you.
Tom, do you?
Good. Brian, I've got,
Alex, are you saying?
Alex,
Mind if I jump in?
was that?
Do you mind if I jump in?
No, go ahead.
One question I had, and this started with, you mentioned that this may be starting with dispatch. Can either of you sort of talk through the decision matrix that goes into determining whether that liaison accompanies a deputy or not, or really how you all go about making that particular decision on a case-by-case basis?
That's like the question everybody wants answered in the entire state, because I think everybody has their own way of doing it. And I think, like Brian said, you do have to figure out what works for your specific, location. And so I think if you asked each different, law enforcement, how they do that, they would have a different answer. So I think we probably start being with like caution and having, the scene cleared and all of that, and then make sure that things are safe, and then, learn as we go. But in general, when people go by themselves, it's usually like a follow-up when the situation's already been assessed, everybody's familiar with it, everybody knows what the need is, and kind of where people are gonna meet, and that kind of thing.
I think to add on that, I think it's gonna be partly the comfort level of the provider. And our comfort level isn't there exactly yet, but I think I agree with Michelle that it'd be more for follow-up maintenance on known people that we deal with regularly. Concerns that we have unique to us over Portland: poor cell phone coverage, poor radio coverage in certain locations, and time and distance. If there's an emergency in Portland, you can get officers there relatively quickly. It could be 30 minutes before we could get somebody to a call. Worst case scenario, it's not usually like that, but just thinking in terms of if everyone's swept on one side of the county and a call comes in on the other, it's a lot of movement. So the discussions I've had with the sheriff is we're not there yet, but I think with some trust and some experience and us learning as well, I think we could get to that point in certain circumstances. But I know that dispatch does do evaluations and criteria, but I think, like Michelle said, it's more for known people, known issues, things like that.
Any other questions? Brian, I've got a couple of questions here. Since this is like the genesis of a program being developed, and how are you organizing your leadership in the department?
So we currently have specialty assignments, collateral duties for different deputies throughout the department, and we thought probably the most appropriate place to kind of place this and house this with us is through our crisis negotiation team. We have a lieutenant that's in charge of that. Crisis negotiators are usually dealing in emergency situations where the SWAT team might have been activated to try to de-escalate and talk someone out of a situation. And, we're looking at our staff and trying to determine who's got what workload for different areas of expertise and things like that. And it seems to fit very nicely there. And that's kind of our plan. But, early on, I think this will be something that we look back at and think how primitive once it gets to where we want it to be. But I think it will be kind of primitive at first with a lot of ride-alongs, building trust, getting our staff to learn her staff and how they work and what they can provide. And I think the eureka moment will be when something's successful and people will think, where have you been all my life? Well, that's my hope.
Yeah.
I think we'll get there.
Super.
I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Are you speaking, or are you just,
Michelle?
yeah?
Do you want to say any last words?
I don't, no, I'm glad you're all speaking, and I'm looking forward to, collaborating together and figuring this out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle took her own car so she could depart.
Give you a minute to get behind. Let's see. Andre. Yes.
Thank you, Michelle.
James, is there anything else to this?
No, you can close the workshop and kick off the regular scheduled meeting.
Before we do, I have a question for the manager.
Sure.
It's all right? We had some role in a collaborative program that some of the municipalities along the coast had developed. Do you have any impression of the progress of that, and whether there's a satisfaction level that exists?
All three communities are still sharing the services of the crisis worker. We are working towards the end of the ARPA funds, funding that program, so the towns will be assuming 100% of the cost over the next probably year, if not sooner. And from what we understand, everything's going well.
Am I guessing correctly that this program would be similar, at least in concept, to
Yes.
that program?
Yeah. The only difference is this program is working through the Opportunity Alliance. The program in Falmouth, Cumberland, and Yarmouth works through Spurwick.
Okay, thanks.
Well, we can close the workshop, everybody?
Yep.
Close the workshop, and we'll go into the meeting. Let's see, we'll start off with the approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to
Make a motion for CD 25077, which is the approval of the minutes of March 3rd, executive session of the Board of Commissioners.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
It passes. Can I have a motion for CD 25008?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
It passes. Move on to informational report presentations. CD 25009, the 2024 Quarter Newspaper Communications Department, Newsletter Department. It's just a presentation?
No presentation, only information for the commissioners.
Okay. Now, we have a fine gentleman with us tonight that we are going to have his informational report. He is the president of the he's a county commissioner of Penobscot County and the President of Maine County Commissioners Association, Andre Cushion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen.
Would you like to get up to the,
I'd be happy to do so. While I'm doing that, can I distribute some
sure.
gifts I brought you here? I stopped by the office and got the brand-new directory.
There
I
you go.
also have a copy
you.
of the president's,
There you go.
Jim, president's goals for this year.
I passed it down.
Okay.
It's like a habit.
And there is my card.
Pass it on.
And Jim, I've got 2 copies for you.
Fantastic.
Nice
Nice to meet you.
And I do have one other small gift. I've been handing these out to legislators to spread our message. Oops, you've got yours.
I'm super hot.
So thank you for the opportunity to join you here tonight. As your chairman said, I've served now in Penobscot County as a commissioner. Prior to that, I did almost 10 years in the Maine legislature, and I've also served at the local level as a town councilor. So I've got a pretty good depth of public service. It's been an honor to be chosen for those positions, as I know it is for you to be serving here as commissioners. I took on this role at the behest of your chair, who was concerned that we were facing a deficiency. The gentleman who was supposed to take the position, who had been long-serving, unfortunately was not reelected, and so there was a gap there. I saw it as an opportunity to help some very dedicated people over the years who have worked to keep this organization growing, but more importantly, I saw it as an opportunity for us to kind of flex the value of county government. I've had the chance over the years to attend a number of national meetings where I've made a lot of good friends, and I've observed what other states have done. As many of you may know, county government in Maine is not quite as robust as it is in other parts of the U.S. Southern and western states tend to focus much of the activities through their county government as opposed to municipal governments. And for rural areas, there's great value in that. There's commodity sharing your needs and being able to use the strength of that to put together a good package of benefits to get good people to come work in government and maintain them. On the sheet I gave you, there are a couple of major goals that I have this year as president. One is to strengthen the organization's relationships with partners, people like the Maine Sheriff's Association, Maine Municipal, the County, Town, City Managers Association, and other partners within county government, clerks, registrars, the various positions that are elected or serve in important roles in county government. I've started that by doing some outreach. I've had the opportunity to meet with Kathy Conlow from Maine Municipal and their president this year, Melissa Doan, who is a manager in my county. I've also reached out to all of the county associations. There are 1 or 2 I'm still working to have a relationship or a conversation with, but the response has been both positive and encouraging. I think there's an opportunity here for us to work together in more collaborative ways, and as many of you know, county government and local government is where we're closest to the people. We understand the needs more effectively at the local level, with all due respect to those who've served in the legislature, and I'm one of those. You get detached sometimes. You don't always understand the nuances or the challenges that your communities face. And I think working collaboratively with MMA, we can move to the second goal I have, which is find ways that county government and municipal government can collaborate on some of the services that need to be provided, that we're obligated or mandated to provide, and that we sometimes in today's workforce and in today's environment are struggling to find good people to fill those. There's a demand. As we all know, we're also in an aging state, and so there are sometimes less people. So I'm not interested from my position in telling municipal government what they should do. I want to find those willing partners who want to find solutions. I think you've taken a great step here in Cumberland County to provide the assessing services for those towns who have had that need. Your sister county, York, has a fire administrator to help. There's discussion among the COG governments I found about finding a way to provide code enforcement services. And we in Penobscot have done a couple of things, one of which has been providing mutual animal control services to a number of smaller towns over the years. And we were able to help a number of communities in central Penobscot to form the first fire EMS district in the state in the Howland area. And that has proven to be not only a successful event for those 10 towns and unorganized territories, but it also has fostered some discussions about other collaborative things. So I think we're getting past some of those challenges that came from parochial attitudes in the past and finding opportunities. So I'm pleased to be here. My goal is to get around to each county and visit you at least once, and I would be happy to take any questions if there may be some.
You don't have a question? I'm
For
sorry.
Andre, no. I talk to him too much as it is now.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity to join you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I speak out a little early because I do have another appointment, but I'm always willing to learn.
Okay. Well, you're welcome to leave, too. Okay, let's see.
Public comment.
Okay, now we'll move into our public comment area, and I will remind people that wish to participate that we have a 3-minute rule, and I ask you to please respect that, and that if it's abused, I'll be recessing the meeting and closing the public comments. Jim, would you be the timer, please? And I ask anybody that would like to participate to please start.
Hello.
Would you say your name and where you're from?
Yes, good evening. My name is Giovanna Peruzzi. I am the labor representative representing the Cumberland County Jail employees for the National Correctional Employees Union. And during that last presentation, I was struck by how much data was shared. I love data too. And since we last met on the 18th of February, I would like to share today that there have been 85 holds at the Cumberland County Jail. That equates to 85 times my members were unable to leave work as planned, unable to rest adequately, eat healthy foods, spend time with their families and loved ones. During that same time period, 8 shifts ran below minimum staffing, and 2 of those 8 shifts ran 3 below minimum. For those unaware, the minimum staffing level means the least amount of staff required to safely and securely run the facility. My message tonight has not changed dramatically from the last month. My members are exhausted. They are working long hours in unsafe conditions, doing some of the hardest work out there. The NCU once again implores this group to recognize the danger inherent in understaffing a jail and understand that more needs to be done to enhance staff retention. We all understand that HR especially is working extremely hard to hire, but in several years, the county has seen a net gain of only a handful of staff. As more are hired, the same amount continue to leave. We all sincerely hope that you see this situation is not sustainable. Someone will eventually get hurt or worse if this is not addressed. Though I am well aware we cannot directly discuss details of negotiations, and I do not plan to do so, I want to share that the NCU team still sincerely believes we can make progress at the table to address this crisis, and we all look forward to meeting again soon. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Hello, Chris DiCaprio. I'm the president of the CEO's Union. Giovanna hit that. To further on what Giovanna said about the short staffing, transport unit is one of another unit that has specialized training above the CO grade. And in 2024, it went 256 shifts unfilled. In 2025, it's at 83 shifts unfilled, with a projection of being 431 shifts unfilled for the year. It's something that we think that you guys need to put a little bit of attention into. I'm not going to talk about negotiations per se, but the packet that is being handed around was presented at the first negotiation session. And we attempted to start negotiations in June last year. We have subsequently were able to start negotiating in September. Our whole point of trying to get in there early was to not get to the point that we're at today. We are thankful that you guys had an executive session on the 3rd of this month, and there is one planned tonight to at least discuss some of the issues that are being presented by our membership. And we do understand that we have further meetings on the 30th. But that presentation with the chief deputy and the mental health work there, second page of that packet talks about the real struggles with mental health within our profession. And that's not counting the current environment we're working in today. And we implore you to give us due consideration in all things going forward. And the town of Brunswick negotiated with their teachers union, and they successfully negotiated a contract. And I'm going to read an update that was sent to all the teachers in the district. It says, the school board and the Brunswick Education Association reached an agreement nearly 6 months before the current collective bargaining agreement expires. This forward-thinking contract aligns with our Brunswick Beliefs strategic plan and serves as a down payment on a long-term commitment to retaining our high-quality teachers and staff, and incorporating new language that will help us attract new talent to ensure our schools remain well-staffed. I was really hoping when we made our request last June that something like that would have already been sent out by the board. We implore you to do what is necessary to retain and reward the people that carried us through this mess that we've been going through, largely brought on by COVID, and to work to get a high caliber of employee into the agency and fill the ranks that are still vacant and refund the positions that are unfunded and get us back to where we were prior to the pandemic mess that we were in. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Do you know Wesley and Cindy DiCaprio? Or
Me?
my late grandfather now, Wesley. They live in Scarborough. And
The name is familiar.
they often would go to your counseling meetings.
Hello, I'm Cody Bellier, Vice President of the union. I just want to, something, I guess it's personal, I'm going through that's in your packet. There was a Harvard study done about living conditions and related to pay and purchasing homes. And I'm personally going through it right now. I talked to a financer about it. She stated a couple things, and she also asked me a couple questions I thought was pretty powerful from the public that they just don't understand. She basically told me in Cumberland County, off my base rate, there was no way I was going to be able to afford a home. I know that's not your guys' problem. That's interest rates and other issues. But and then she asked me how I possibly make what I made for the last 3 years off my base rate. And that's when I told her about our overtime, and she said, "There's no way a human can physically work that many hours and survive. So in order to make what I make, I have to live in either York County or Oxford County, and that adds an hour drive. So you're looking at a 16-hour day is now an 18 or 19, depending on where you have to live outside the county. So you're looking at maybe 5 by the time you wind down and things like that after a double shift, 4 or 5 hours of sleep. And we saw the mess that one of our coworkers went through, Kenny Meringue, and I obviously don't want any of that to happen again, but continuous weeks of 4 hours, and the public can't even wrap their mind how every single one of us is working that many hours. So I just hope we can eventually come to a resolution and get paid what all of us deserve to make and see our families. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Chris Beal. I've worked at the jail for 12 years now. I am just so tired of working the forced overtime. You may say that we're volunteering for it, but when we have to sign up for 2 to 3 shifts a week, or we're going to be forced to the next shift, that's not volunteer. I'm tired of manipulating my schedule. I have to shift swap with a coworker so I can get some more time with my family. We're going on almost 6 years of forced overtime, and I'm so tired. Half of my career now has been forced overtime. I thought this was going to be my last job before retirement. Now I'm not so sure. I applied to Maine State Probation with 18 other people, and out of all 19 of us, 9 were from the jail. 9 people want to leave the jail now. We're fed up with how the jail is being run off of our backs. I used to be a resident of Cumberland County and proud to be serving the people of Cumberland County. But when it was time for me to upgrade my living situation, my family's living situation in 2018, I couldn't afford a house in Cumberland County and I had to move to Saginaw. Then a second time when I was able to improve my home situation, still couldn't afford anything in Cumberland County, and I had to remain in Saginaw. Pay us more and you might have a few extra paying Cumberland County residents. Pay us more and the jail might have more than just a trickle of people coming in. Pay us more and I might be able to move back to Cumberland County. Susan Watonis was the only commissioner that I ever saw visit the jail. I invite you all to come see us when we're working our best, when we're working our tails off. If you want to see the meat and potatoes, what we do, then come to intake on a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday afternoon, after 2, into the evening. You'll see just how busy it is and who we have to deal with. Then go visit the pods those same evenings and nights, and you'll appreciate what we do as those pods get rocking with 80 inmates. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Chris. Do we have anybody else that wishes to speak?
My name is Ian Northrup. I work at Cumberland County Sheriff's Office at the jail. I work the intake department. I've been there for almost 10 years, approximately. I have left once and returned since my 10 years there of tenure. When I first began, I saw this as a great opportunity, somewhere, a position where I could both serve my public and serve myself in progressing the place that I live in, the society I live in. And with that opportunity, I took every opportunity that was provided to me. So I became a field training officer. I tried to train in every aspect of the facility, and eventually had the opportunity to do things such as crisis intervention and some of the mental health side of things that became a very large concern for a period of time. But now I'm tired. I cannot do those things. I cannot teach CIT to our new officers because I am tired. I'm working that day. The times that I do get away, I have to perform the tasks that were left undone at my home with my friends and my family. There are many people within our coworkers of ours who now are experiencing the things that at the time when I gained the career, they seemed like warnings, I suppose, but also, you say that's not going to be me. But here they are, divorced, with heart issues and mental health issues that go untreated. Some of the things at one point may have been things that others might laugh at, but when you think of why they're doing those things, it is horrendous. The people who pick their scabs to the point that they bleed from the anxiety that they experience, not necessarily from even the work that they're doing, but the things that they left behind. Calling wife and saying that I can't come home tonight isn't just that I won't physically be there. It means now you must man it all. You must do it all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dean.
Good evening. I spoke last meeting. My name's William Lawson. I've been at the jail quite a few years. Ian said something that struck me is the number of things he's given up that benefit the jail and the citizens of Cumberland County, but he just can't do it anymore because of the toll it takes on him and his family and his personal time. I recently went through something like that too. I was a firearms instructor for 20 years, and I just kind of felt like that I couldn't continue to give that aspect of my training career without it costing my personal and professional life. I saw how when we'd have trainings, because I would have to go to those trainings and be an instructor, it would take away from my coworkers who are struggling to get time off. I mentioned this last time. You know, we were told no time off this summer. If you don't have a vacation scheduled, you're not getting one. So that's something I gave up. I'm like, I can't do that to my fellow coworkers. I can't in good conscience take a week to go out to the range and my guys can't get time off. So I guess my point in this is that through this process and through this attrition and being so tired that you don't want to continue with these specialty things, is we're losing a tremendous amount of experience and knowledge that you just can't replace. And I think that's something that needs to be thought of when we're talking about retention. You can't replace experience or knowledge. And we're dangerously close to having issues that arise out of those kind of instances. And I'll be honest, I loved being a firearms instructor. I love, the things I've learned in my career, the opportunities that I've had. I loved imparting that on and sharing that with my coworkers. But to me, I just couldn't continue giving back to the county that's not supporting, that hasn't supported us in 5+ years. 1 year, that's, the sheriff talked about it last meeting. We're trying to get over the hump. 1 year, that's a hump. 5 years, we're talking about Mount Everest. And what it takes to get over Mount Everest versus that first year hump is going to take a lot, but it needs to, some serious thought and effort needs to take place. Thank you.
Thanks, Dean. Do we have anybody else? Does anybody want to make a comment to them or anything? Huh?
Me.
I just want to say, just one correction, is that I have been to the jail. So has Commissioner Katerina. Just want to put it out there for the record. Thank you.
That's all I was going to say, that you're probably not aware of that. We were there about a month ago. Who? What?
I'm just putting it out
Oh,
there for
okay.
everyone, just for everyone to hear, so everyone knows. Thank you.
Oh, can I make a comment?
Sure.
I admit I haven't been recently, I'm a new commissioner, but I used to be on the Sheriff's Department's Board of Visitation. So I've toured the jail many times, and I understand what goes on there, and you will see more of my face if you don't mind.
Jim doesn't. Well, I wish to say thank you for your comments. I know last time you were here, we did listen, and we have talked. And that's about as far as I can get, but thank you for coming. You're certainly welcome to stay if you wish. If you don't, I understand. You are a good group and you're necessary. And know that we understand that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. See you, Andre.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm just trying to, that's what I was going to, just let them know.
Doesn't matter anyway.
We all set to move on to the next
Yeah.
topic? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which contains items 25018 through 25028?
Second?
Does anybody have an item that they wish to remove from the consent agenda or move it to the new?
Just want to note that although it goes to 028, there's no items beyond 021 except 028.
Okay, so noted. We have a motion and we have a second. With no discussion, is those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda passes. ARPA business. I need a motion to approve Cumberland County Commissioners to authorize the transfer of $1.2 million in contingency funds from the municipal water and sewer infrastructure allocation to the North Windham wastewater treatment system project.
So moved.
Second?
Jim?
Thank you. This is one of two items under the opera business this evening. The first is, and the commissioners have talked about this a couple of times over the last 6 months, is amending the contract with the town of Windham for sewer upgrades that they're doing down in the business corridor of 302. We have previously awarded ARPA funds with them, to them a couple of years ago to help them get the project kicked off. We are proposing, and we have allocated, I should say that back in the fall, we allocated $1.2 million and reserved this to the side. As you may remember, we had to do that by December 31st to meet federal regulations. We have carved off this $1.2 million to amend the contract with the town of Windham to add this to the amount that we're providing them. This $1.2 million will be designated towards extending sewer down to the new fire station that the town of Windham is currently in the conversation and design of, in hopes of bringing it to a vote sometime in 2025. And so this is the first of two, in which the second item under this ARPA business is to approve the MOA, which the town of Windham is offering up to 3,000 square feet within the new fire station so that we could have a super substation for the sheriff's office up in an area that we service and are in need of having a more permanent offices up in that area for the deputies patrolling the area. But this first one is allocating the $1.2 million to the town of Windham out of the ARPA funds. Thank you.
So moved.
No,
Oh,
we got the
sorry, no
motion.
more.
Any discussion?
I have a question. Have they started the sewer project yet?
Yes.
Okay. And the only reason I asked that is because I sold a house in Windham last year and they hadn't started it yet, and there was some question of when they were starting it, so I was just,
They've
it's a
started,
curiosity thing for me.
they haven't started going down towards the fire station yet.
Yeah,
That-
okay,
That
okay.
section has
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
They're doing the basic infrastructure, the leach
Okay.
fields have been all put in
Oh, good.
next
Okay.
to Manchester School.
Yes.
Wyndham right now is poised to absolutely explode
Oh,
because
I
of the
know.
sewer coming in. Town council the other night was involved in 446 apartment units, condo units.
Yeah.
And I know of probably another 700 to 800 that are on the drawing board.
Yeah,
And some of them right behind this new station.
yeah, I heard about, yeah, I've heard that. Thank you.
The station's going next, the fire station's going up by Home Depot.
Right. Right. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? It passes. Next item, 25023, I need a motion to authorize the county manager to execute the memorandum of agreement between the town of Windham and Cumberland County for space within the proposed Windham Town Fire Station.
So
Second.
moved. Oh,
Second.
Gloria said-
Jim?
Like I said, this is item number 2 of the 2 item process here. This is an MOU that the town manager of Wyndham and myself have been negotiating probably since November of last year. This is just putting forth that up to 3,000 square feet will be allocated towards the sheriff's office. It's for a 40-year period. We would have a prorated cost share of the annual utilities of the building. And we have provided language that if so need in the future, the county can get out of the MOU if warranted. But at this point, we see this as a very positive move in collaboration with the town of Wyndham. And so I'd ask for your approval on this.
Any discussion?
A question
Go ahead.
of the county manager, in terms of like this is a strategic move for us. It's kind of maybe like a benefit or a perk for the patrol folks. They don't have to drive as long to, what, is that a perceived benefit or a perk? What am I hearing?
It is. We have substations around the county. They're very small. They're maybe one desk, not in the best of shape. With the sheriff's office patrolling really towns outside of the greater Portland area.
Right.
But whereas the sheriff's office is in downtown Portland in a sense. And so it really will provide an opportunity for not only sheriff's deputies, but members of the CID to work out of this location, even the patrol captain to spend time in this area, to touch base with deputies. So we're really seeing this as a bigger footprint for us up in that area where we serve.
Right. It sounds like a good strategic move to make. And the square footage is office space, but also probably, obviously, vehicle space, parking lot
Yes.
available, and that kind of thing. So to me, it seems like a smart move and a good way to, maybe those folks will get home earlier to be with their families, because the driving is less, so there's a benefit there maybe, or just make it more efficient in general for those folks who are servicing all over the place. So I'm in favor. Thank you.
If I could just bring one thing up, and it just came to mind, we would be responsible for outfitting the office space.
Right.
So workstations, desks, things like that, that would be on the county's nickel, and that would be something that we would be bringing forth an awarded bid in the future for that.
Any other questions? I have one, Jim. Are there any other services that Wyndham has offered or willing to talk about that we might be able to use instead of the deputies having to come all the way in, for example? Is there anything we might do, vehicles or whatever?
Well, nothing that we've really talked about with the town of Wyndham, but I've always had the thought that much like we have the sheriff's office all the way down in Portland, well, part of the LEC is also the garage. And so we have deputies coming all the way to Portland to get their vehicles worked on. I think there's going to be a discussion that we should be having as a county, that we need to locate that garage on the outer perimeter of Greater Portland so that we have a greater efficiency for fleet services.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
That's opera. Okay. New business. I need a motion to review the proposed MOU between Cumberland County Sheriff's Office and the Opportunity Alliance to develop and coordinate efforts for a law enforcement crisis response liaison.
So moved.
Second.
James.
This item was the topic of your workshop this evening. I don't believe there's anything new to add unless the chief deputy has come up with any items while he's been sitting there. So I think he's played all of his cards this evening, and I think this item is ready for a vote. Thank you.
Anybody have anything further they wish to add? See?
One question. Chief Deputy, just a quick one. You envision with this alliance going forward that at some point your officers would not have to go back maybe the second, third time. They would be able to intervene and maybe calm things down before it ever got to that level again?
It's really kind of a twofold approach. One, to intervene before something gets so violent, so dangerous, that we have to take some level of action that we don't want to. And also, once we identify somebody, get them off the track of the repeated phone calls. I could give you names, but there's certain individuals that
Oh,
we're
yes,
just
no, I
there
understand.
4 or 5 times a week for the same problem. It's just, there's no solution.
Any other discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Item 25024, approval of the Community Development 2025 Annual Action Plan, including the allocation of the CDBG and home partnership funds and the authorization of the county manager to execute all required certifications, applications, and documents in conjunction with the submittal of the 2025 Consolidated Annual Action Plan.
Good night, gentlemen.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Have we had the public hearings on this, or is this something that's supposed to have a couple of public hearings?
Taking the words right out of my mouth, Commissioner. This is an item that we bring forth once a year for the annual action plan. The first reading and public hearing is in March of each year, and we usually follow that up in April or the 1st of May. This year, the second reading will be the April meeting. This is a public hearing. Courtney is here to present the 2025 game plan for annual action submission for the county's projects, as well as the set-asides from South Portland and Bridgeton. So I'd like to pass the microphone off to Courtney to run us through it.
Hello, thank you. So we are hoping and assuming that we're going to have level funding. Cumberland County received about 1.5 million last year, and that's what we are basing all of our estimates off of again this year. The MOC, the Municipal Oversight Committee, as well as the 2 set-aside communities, CDACs, went through the process with the application release, reviewing open mic opportunities, and then submitting their recommendations to their boards, as well as the application review team going to the Municipal Oversight Committee. The final votes happened last week, and Cumberland County Municipal Oversight Committee voted to fund 2 infrastructure projects, 2 housing, and 2 public services. The first infrastructure project would be a childcare job creation. It would create 18 new jobs for folks in Cumberland County, and to make it an extra benefit, they would have 50 spots reserved for low-mod families to have their children go there. The other infrastructure is the Town of Wyndham, Forbes Lane Neighborhood Park. It's a little pocket park. The Town of Wyndham already owns the lot, and it would connect a couple neighborhoods that don't really have access or walkability to any other parks right now. The housing is Habitat for Humanity, which is the critical home repair. That's been a very successful program that's been going for many years now, and they are going to continue and assessing all of those homes, as well as the Alpha One Critical Access Ramp Program that has been funded in the past many times. For the Cumberland County Public Service is My Place Teen Center. They received a really high recommendation for their program to help at-risk youth, offer education, mental health, all of things to help the youth become successful in life and take them out of high-risk areas. Safe space for them to go. And then through these doors is the other Cumberland County Public Service project with the domestic violence advocacy services. So those are the Cumberland County projects. For the set-asides, the town of Bridgeton is recommending to fund a playing ground at the Ham Complex. The town recently bought, maybe in the last 2 or 3 years, and they're going to be putting a playground there, and then funding the food pantry again this year, as well as the navigator that is run out of the community center. And for the city of South Portland, they also are doing a playground. Playgrounds were big this year. In the Pleasantdale area, that neighborhood does not have access to any playgrounds, and the city already does own that pocket park of land, so they will have a playground structure on that.
And then for housing, the South Portland Housing Authority is working on another affordable housing units for seniors in Landry Heights. And this would help cover the costs of the pre-development, clearing the site and getting them to that next step of getting ready to build. And then for the public services for South Portland, through these doors would also be funded and supporting the South Portland residents, Meals on Wheels, as well as Greater Portland Family Promise. And these three have been funded in the past as well. So this is the first reading, and then hopefully when I come back in April, we'll have some concrete numbers. We do have contingency plans in place for the 3 different pots of funds to move things as they go, up or down. But this is, we're just basing off of estimates right now. I'm happy to answer.
Any discussion? Mary Jean?
No, I think we have to convene a public hearing, but
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry?
Call the public hearing.
the general public would want to speak.
So I open the floor up for a public hearing. Seeing no public, I will close the public hearing. Now, discussion?
There's somebody in Washington that will appreciate that a lot.
Jean Marie?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks to you guys for letting me volunteer to be on the Municipal Oversight Committee. I did go to their meeting in Gray, and for me, it was very interesting just to see the various players who are involved, the different, town managers and whomever. I obviously believe very highly in community block grants, and they have for years. I'm very hopeful that the feds will remember the origination of community block grants, which came from the conservative side of the aisle originally, years ago, so let's keep it there. But thank you for all your work, and again, fingers crossed.
Absolutely. I did have a meeting with my our Cumberland County's HUD rep last week, and she was saying it's been quiet, so she was feeling pretty good that CDBG funds, we don't want them to go away. So
I know.
they're very well liked.
That'd be crazy, but that's my opinion. Okay.
Any other comments? I have a question. It seems to me like we're really going on to operational costs instead of capital costs, repairs and buildings and so forth. What percentage of our money is going where?
That's a good question.
Well, you don't. When you get a chance.
I can have all
meeting.
of that for the next meeting.
Yeah,
I will
fine.
say that the applications this round were very different than the previous couple rounds. We kind of got away from we were in a lot of sidewalks. And I think there's been a lot of changes through the staff and municipalities around the county as well. And there was also, the qualifying areas did change as well. The census maps were updated, so I think that some had to think quick on their feet and what they could get out for smaller projects this year. So I do expect more to come through next year where they know where they're working at. But this was definitely a different type of year for applications. But I can get that answer for you.
Yeah, Mike, the reason I asked the question is that I'm hesitant to use award money, this is just me personally, for operations, because when it doesn't come, who then has to fund it? And that's the issue, either the community's gonna have to, or we're going to have to, but that's going to happen. Just a comment. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you. Now we have some proclamations. Catherine, I'm going to put you on the spot. Telecommunicators Week.
Okay. The whole thing? Okay. All right. Proclamation for National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, April 13th through the 19th of 2025. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services, and whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property, and whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who call the Regional Communications Center, and whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services, and whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers and firefighters by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety, and whereas CCRCC staff answered a total of 104,349 calls that included 34,677 PSAP 911 calls in 2024 for the 19 communities and USM who represent the service area. Whereas Cumberland County Public Safety telecommunicators have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients, and whereas each CCRCC staff member has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during their performance of their job in the past year. Whereas the CCRCC staff, through the past couple of years, have been extremely flexible and committed to the center, assuring staffing levels remained strong, and continuing to make sure a high level of service is provided to public safety agencies countywide. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Cumberland County designates the week of April 13th through 19th, 2025 to be National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in Cumberland County, in honor of the individuals whose diligence and professionalism keep our county and citizens safe. Signed, you'll have to fill in the rest.
Can I have a motion to accept the?
So moved. One second.
Second.
Those in favor?
Kathleen, thank you for reading that.
Yes, really.
I guess I just want to say, I guess maybe I'm out of turn, but we have such a great center here at the county. I mean, I'm always blown away at how first-rate, first-class, top-notch the center is and how many great people work there. And it's kind of like your health, until you get sick.
Yeah.
You think, yeah, I'm just, buzzing along. Till you get sick and you think to yourself, hey, I like being healthy. I feel the same way about this organization, is that so much goes on behind the scenes, but until you need them, they're there. And I just want to say thank you to the whole staff. They do a tremendous job and really a shining star in the county, I think. So thank you to the staff. Thanks for letting me talk out of turn.
I have a comment.
You're accepted.
Thank you.
Steve?
Go
I have a
ahead.
comment. Just very quickly, yes, I want to thank all the telecommunicators out there, and particularly working in the county, and I'm looking forward to my tour. I'm taking a tour of the facility in 2 weeks, I think it is.
What day are you taking the tour up there?
I forget, I don't have my calendar right in front of me. Why, you want to come?
Well, probably.
All right, I'll call you. No, I'll
I went to the meeting there.
Oh,
Quarterly
right.
meeting the other day. Yeah. And, Steve, thankfully for me, it was like old home week. I knew probably half of them in the room because of my days in the fire department. And, yeah, I mean, I'm very impressed with what they do there and how they do it, and the people who get involved in keeping that, and the way they want to grow. It's unbelievable what their capabilities are. Yeah, no, it's a great thing in the shining star for the county.
Yeah, I hear here, Tom, I participated there also, and the professionalism that is shown by that group is just fantastic. It's great. We have one more that we have to go through here, 25026, to proclaim the week of April 21st to the 25th as National Community Development Week in Cumberland County. Catherine, I asked you to.
Yeah, okay, so the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development implemented the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, program in 1974 for the purpose of providing local governments with the financial resources to assist low and moderate income persons. And whereas the County of Cumberland has utilized nonprofit and community-based organizations to address community improvements and human needs, and whereas the week of April 21st through 25th, 2025 has been designated as National Community Development Week by the National Community Development Association to celebrate the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, program and the Home Investment Partnerships Home Program, and whereas the CDBG program provides annual funding and flexibility to local communities like Cumberland County to provide decent, safe, and affordable housing, a suitable living environment, and economic opportunities to low and moderate income people. And whereas the Home Program provides funding to local communities to create decent, safe, and affordable housing opportunities for low-income persons, whereas the County of Cumberland and its partner local governments have clearly demonstrated the capacity to administer the CDBG program to identify, prioritize, and resolve pressing local problems, and whereas over the past 19 years, Cumberland County has received over $26,500,000 in CDBG funds, and since 2012, $4 million in home funds. Whereas the Community Development Office not only processed and distributed the county's $1,556,118 CDBG allocation and $325,000 home allocation last year to qualified individuals, businesses, nonprofits, and towns within Cumberland County, and now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Cumberland County, Maine, that said board hereby designates the week of April 21st through 25th, 2025 as National Community Development Week in Cumberland County, and encourage all citizens of Cumberland County to support community development activities this month and throughout the year, because our vibrant communities provide the foundation for a high quality of life for our residents.
Can I have a
Okay.
motion to accept this proclamation?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you, Catherine, appreciate that. Jim, we don't have any votes that we're going to take if we go into executive session, is that right?
No. There is no voting in executive session, and nor will you be taking any votes when you come out of executive session.
I'd like to make a motion to go on executive session 25-027, authorization of the county commissioners to enter into the executive session Title I MRSA Section 4056D for the opportunity to discuss contract negotiations with the Cumberland County Communications Association, National Corrections Employees Union, and the Teamster Law Enforcement Union, and the Teamster Corrections Supervisor Union.
Can I have that's the motion?
Second?
Can I have a vote to go into session?
Aye.
Unanimous. We're now in executive session at 7:04 PM.